They don't have to kill you to destroy you. All they need to do is control your emotions. And that's enough. That's how the world really works. The most powerful form of control isn't physical. It's psychological. People don't come with chains anymore. They come with smiles, with tears, with guilt trips, and emotional blackmail. If they can make you feel, they can make you move. If they can get inside your head, they can make you betray yourself. And here's the tragic part. Most people don't even realize it's happening. From childhood, you were trained to believe emotions make you human. That feeling deeply makes you good. But the truth. The deeper you feel, the easier you are to manipulate. The more you care, the more strings you give others to pull. The more emotional you are, the more predictable, vulnerable, and weak you become. They'll use love to distract you. They'll use fear to control you. They'll use guilt to stop you. Every tear they shed, every sad story they tell, it's not always real. Sometimes, it's a tactic. Sometimes, it's strategy. Because when people realize they can't win with logic or truth, they turn to emotion. Why? Because emotion bypasses reason. It hijacks your mind. The moment you feel sorry for them, the moment you second-guess yourself, the battlefield is already lost. They've already won. And here's the brutal reality. The most emotional people are the easiest to control. The ones who react instantly. The ones who love blindly. The ones who forgive without consequence. The ones who cry over people who don't even think about them. These people walk around like open wounds, waiting to be exploited. And they are, again and again, because they've been taught that softness is strength. When in truth, it's a liability. That's why you need detachment. That's why you must become emotionally bulletproof. Not heartless. Not cold. Just in control. Emotion isn't the enemy. Being ruled by it is. You must understand, emotions are tools, not masters. You use them when they serve your purpose. You shut them off when they endanger your peace. You never, ever let them lead. Because once they do, you're no longer thinking, you're just reacting. And that's exactly where manipulators want you. They want you apologizing for things you didn't do. They want you explaining yourself for boundaries you had every right to set. They want you saying yes to what you hate, and no to what you need. Why? Because your emotional nature makes you predictable. You'll break your own rules to avoid guilt. You'll betray yourself just to be liked. You'll give up your dignity just to avoid making someone else uncomfortable. That's not virtue, that's slavery. The ones who win in this world aren't the most emotional. They're the most emotionally disciplined. They know when to feel and when to shut it off. They know how to stay silent in chaos. How to smile through betrayal. How to walk away from tears that are nothing more than tactics. This doesn't make them evil. It makes them free. Because people will always test you. They'll provoke you, just to see if they can pull your strings. And if you react, you're predictable. You're readable. You're controllable. But if you respond with silence, with calm, with total emotional neutrality, they panic. Why? Because their weapon didn't work. Their story didn't move you. Their anger didn't scare you. Their crying didn't soften you. You stayed still. You stayed in control. That's power, the kind no one can take from you. Because when you no longer need to be liked, when you no longer feel guilt for doing what's best for you, when you no longer fear being misunderstood, you become untouchable. That's the beginning of true freedom. That's the edge most people never develop, because they're too busy reacting, over-explaining, and drowning in feelings that were planted in them by someone else. You. And once that doubt enters your mind, your decisions are no longer your own. That's why detachment is your only shield. You don't have to stop caring. You just have to stop letting that care make decisions for you. You have to stop letting your empathy become a leash. You have to stop letting other people's pain control your peace, because most of the time, it's not even real. It's performance. It's manipulation. And even if it is real, it's not your responsibility to carry. Once you learn to detach emotionally from manipulation, everything changes. You stop reacting. You stop engaging. You stop explaining. You start thinking. You start watching. You start controlling the flow. They can scream. They can beg. They can cry. But you don't move. You analyze. You calculate. You decide on your terms. That's emotional dominance. And in a world where everyone's trying to get a reaction out of you, your ability to stay silent, calm, and cold is your greatest weapon. Empathy is a beautiful lie, sold to you as a virtue, but designed to keep you weak. Society glorifies empathy because it benefits the manipulators, not the empath. The more you feel for others, the more vulnerable you are to their tactics. They don't want you to be logical, they want you emotionally enslaved. They want you to drown in someone else's pain until you forget your own needs, your own truth, your own life. You were trained to flinch at pain that isn't yours. To rescue those who would never do the same for you. To bend your boundaries until they snap. That's how the world exploits the empath, by turning their heart into a leash. They call it kindness. They call it compassion. But the truth is far darker. People weaponize their suffering. They broadcast their wounds to gain special treatment. They act like victims to escape accountability. They'll cry in your arms, bleed on your floor, and use their pain to justify every line they cross. And if you dare to say no, you become the villain. The monster. The cold one. They don't care about what's right. They care about control. And empathy is the perfect tool. Because once they have your sympathy, they have your mind. Then you hesitate. You feel guilty. You second-guess yourself. You delay cutting them off. You allow one more conversation, one more chance, one more excuse. And every time you do, they sink the hook deeper. They're not healing, they're feeding. Feeding on your time, your energy, your guilt. They disguise it as connection, but it's parasitic. You become a reservoir for their chaos. And the worst part, you think it's your duty. That's how dangerous unguarded empathy can be. The world doesn't run on kindness, it runs on leverage. And manipulators have learned how to make their sadness a weapon. You're not dealing with emotion, you're dealing with strategy. Some of the most broken people are the most dangerous, because their brokenness becomes their excuse for everything. They'll lie, cheat, steal, betray. And when you confront them, they point to their trauma, their past, their pain. And suddenly you're the one apologizing to the person who stabbed you. That's not empathy. That's emotional blackmail. And if you don't wake up, you'll keep letting it happen. You'll keep giving second chances to people sharpening their knives behind your back. You'll keep letting guilt silence your truth. That's why detachment isn't cruelty, it's clarity. When you detach, you start seeing the difference between genuine pain and weaponized suffering. You see who's hurting and who's manipulating. You stop reacting. You start observing. And most importantly, you stop sacrificing yourself to save people who don't want to be saved. The empath must evolve. You can feel everything and still not respond. You can hear their story and still walk away. You can understand their pain and still say no. That's real power, when your empathy is under your control, not theirs. Because here's the truth they'll never tell you. Some people don't want help. They want control. They thrive in chaos. They sabotage every piece they're given. And they seek out empaths, not because they love them, but because they know empaths will break themselves trying to fix someone else. That's the trap. That's the game. And if you don't master detachment, you'll lose, again and again. You'll keep bleeding for people who wouldn't flinch if you died tomorrow. You'll keep feeding fires that were never yours to put out. And all the while, your life slips by. Your goals decay. Your mind erodes. That's what happens when empathy has no boundaries. You become a tool, a sponge, a servant. But when you detach, everything changes. You stop being their therapist. You stop being their savior. You become something rare, an empath with a spine. And that kind of person terrifies manipulators. They can't guilt you. They can't shame you. They can't pull your strings anymore. You become emotionally invisible to their tactics. And when that happens, they either flee or expose themselves completely. Because without your emotional reactions, they lose power. They can't hold you. They can't control you. They're left exposed, naked beneath the weight of their own lies. That's the moment you win. Not with shouting. Not with revenge. You win with silence. With distance. With the calm certainty that you owe no one your peace. You don't owe anyone access to your energy. You don't owe them your empathy, especially when they've already turned it into a weapon against you. What you owe is to yourself. Clarity. Protection. The life you've been sacrificing for people who refuse to grow. So guard your empathy. Harden it. Sharpen it. Let it be earned. Until then, keep your peace cold, your heart locked, your mind clean. You are not here to be drained. You are not here to be used. You are here to live, fully, freely, and emotionally untouchable. They don't need weapons to break you. They just need your reactions. That's the battlefield of emotional warfare. You think it's an argument, but it's a trap. They've studied you, your kindness, your insecurities, your past mistakes. And now they weaponize all of it. A manipulator doesn't shout. They whisper. They cry like victims, then turn accusers. One moment they're fragile, the next they're fierce. It's not chaos, it's calculation. They push. They pull. They spin you in circles. Because as long as you're reacting, you're not thinking. You're too busy defending, explaining, justifying exactly what they want. Their mission is simple. Keep you emotional so you can't be rational. Every guilt trip. Every silent treatment. Every sarcastic jab. It's all a tactic, to destabilize you. When you lose your calm, they win. If you respond with anger, you're the problem. If you respond with silence, you're heartless. If you leave, you're the betrayer. No matter what you do, they twist the story until you become the villain. Because emotional manipulation isn't about truth, it's about control. Understand this. They don't want resolution. They want dominance. That's why they bait you into endless arguments. They'll accuse you of things you never did, just to make you prove yourself. They'll dig up your past, insult your morals, challenge your worth. All to pull one reaction out of you. And when you finally react, they act calm, surprised, innocent. You're overreacting. I was just joking. They poke until you bleed, then blame you for bleeding. And the worst part? You fall for it. Because you're human. You want to explain. You want to clear your name. You want to be understood. But the moment you do, you become the puppet. And your emotions, the strings. That's the game you have to stop playing. You cannot win against someone who feeds on your reaction. The only victory is in emotional silence. Let them speak. You say nothing. Let them accuse. You offer no defense. Let them play the victim. You walk away. That's power. Not screaming. Not matching their chaos. Power is remaining still while their storm rages. It's the art of emotional ghosting, not disappearing, but becoming unreadable, unreachable, untouchable. And that terrifies them. Because once they can't manipulate your feelings, they lose their grip. You become unpredictable, unprogrammable, dangerous. Why? Because you've stopped being emotional currency for their ego. You've stopped being a mirror they can distort. You've become something they cannot control. And in a manipulator's world, nothing is scarier than that. So, how do you become immune? First, recognize the bait. Guilt, shame, pity, flattery, passive aggression. These aren't conversations, they're psychological attacks. When someone says, "After everything I've done for you," that's guilt bait. When they say, "No one else would care like I do," that's control bait. When they twist your words or act confused, that's confusion bait. The key is simple. Observe, don't absorb. Hear the words, but don't let them sink in. Let silence in your mind become your armor. Second, stop explaining yourself. You owe no explanations to manipulators. Every justification you give becomes new ammo for them. If they cared, they'd seek to understand. But manipulators don't want understanding. They want leverage. So starve them.
No defenses.
No long texts.
No emotional reactions.
Just stillness. Detachment. Boundaries delivered with the weight of a stone wall. Third, reclaim your internal power. The moment you realize no one has the right to control how you feel, everything changes. Your peace is not a bargaining chip. Your sanity is not their playground. If someone tries to weaponize your emotions, take it as your cue to disengage completely. You're not cold, you're clean. You're not heartless, you're strategic. You've learned the truth. Feelings don't belong in every fight, especially the ones designed to make you bleed. Detachment isn't apathy. It's precision. It's knowing when to care, and when to cut the power. Because when you stop reacting, the game ends. Their tantrums echo into emptiness. Their tears meet silence. Their tests meet nothing. That's when the illusion shatters. That's when their spell dies, because they need your emotion to survive. You don't need theirs. You never did. And now they finally know it. Being emotionless doesn't mean being robotic. It means being unbreakable. Stay sharp. Stay detached. And if you're ready to destroy every emotional chain ever wrapped around you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because this isn't just content. This is psychological warfare.